We are back with another one. We are going to be comparing the differences for the settings from the mobile app and the PC app for AQ3D and kind of comparing the two, as well as going over settings you're going to want to make sure you have on or off depending on your device. Starting with the social settings, of course, we have all the allows, which is your party invites, friend, guilds, and duel requests. Now, if you are not someone who duels, then I would highly recommend disabling this if you do not want to duel. If you're already in a guild or don't want to have friend invites, then make sure you disable these. I highly recommend leaving this on because it's always better to do things in parties for the most part, so that's something that I would leave on. Same with whispers, but I mean, it's a preference of choice. Profanity filters, for those of you guys who don't want to see certain languages, if you find it offends you, make sure to keep that on. Something I did not know about, however, is the show other player pets. I didn't actually know that was a setting until just recently. So if you lag or have issues with, frame rates and whatnot, you might want to turn this off so that this was going to cause less lag on your device. I've also heard that disabling this also reduces the lag as well. I don't know if that is true or not, but it might help if you have that off. Again, no confirmation on that. Being able to allow your friends to go to you is always something nice to have. It depends on when I allow this. If I'm recording, I usually disable that, but if I am not recording, then I always have that on. On the PC end of things, the social settings are all exactly the same as they are on the mobile version. Back on the mobile version, looking at the user interface, you've got the highlight targets, show current target indicator, and the condensed buff debuff. I leave all these on, but actually that's not true. I actually disable this because I don't need to highlight the targets. I know what targets I'm attacking because I can visually see it. So I leave that off just because I find it looks worse for me when I'm recording to have that enabled. And those settings are identical on PC. For the nameplate, of course, if you feel like disabling all of your stuff, you certainly can. I actually disable my health because I don't like to see that little bar above my head. So I disable that, but everything else I leave on. Player nameplates, it's the same thing. You can disable your health or whatever you want, but I just leave everything on for that. And for the NPC nameplates, it's the same thing. I leave everything on. I have heard people say that when you disable this stuff for the other things, well, actually probably not that, you'd want to have that on, but by disabling more of these things, it also reduces the lag. I have no confirmation whether that's true or not, but this is what I have heard, is that by removing those does reduce the lag. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not, I have no idea. Menu signs, this is for your menu right here, and I never remember this menu size, but I just leave it on full, especially if you're on mobile. Why would you ever need to change this? On PC, maybe. Text size, I just leave that where it is, and then the chat one, I just leave that where it is. For this, if this is something that you wanted to see the timestamps for the chat, then you can definitely enable that, but I personally just leave it off. Chat height, I always leave that on medium, but you've got your options whether you want to see more of the chat or less of the chat. And then you have the health bar, and I put on the percentages. I always make sure that my percentages are on. I leave the max off, but the default is to just be with the current. If you're using things like Samurai, you are definitely going to want to have the percentage on. Well, I mean, for the resource bar, you don't really need it, but it's just, for me, I like to have that on. Now, the PC settings for all of these things are exactly the same. Now, you'll notice that my menu size on PC is lower. It's not completely full just because it doesn't really need to be. So I have it on. This is actually, I think, default for the most part. Text size, again, you just leave it where it is. And then the chat, you can have it low, full, however you feel is good for you. Back on the mobile side, allow camera zoom. Now this is off by default, so you're going to want to make sure to turn that on if you want to be able to zoom in on characters or zoom out of your character and things like that. I highly recommend having that on. I personally find it much better. Then you just basically pinch the screen and squish it, or, expand, move your fingers away from each other to make it zoom out. And I love having that option on mobile, so might want to enable that. Always face target, I have this off because this irritates me when I am trying to do certain things and the camera's forcing me to face the target I'm attacking when I'm trying to do something else. So I disable it, but that's a preference choice. Use free camera, I have this enabled, and then I have these disabled. For my sensitivity, this is another preference. Depending on what you want to do for the zoom speed, I have it on the medium, and then sensitivity is fairly low. Field of view, I have it on complete max. I believe that is the default, but I am not sure. It might not be. Default might be in the middle, but I always have it on the max. And camera shake, this annoys me, so I always turn that completely off. On the PC side of things, you do not have the option to allow the camera zoom. This is not an option when you are on PC. The other options are there, however, but yeah, not that other one because it's automatic. You can automatically zoom on PC, so you don't need that option, but these are what I have settings. My sensitivity is always way up there. Zoom speed is in the middle, and like I said, my field of view is always up, field of view, and then the shake is off, and this is for both PC and mobile. In the controls section, you've got a target button. Now this will cycle through the targets, or you can target the nearest only. Mine cycles through. This is the one that I usually do. However, you can choose to do the nearest opponent if that's how you prefer. It really depends on your play style, but this is, I find, important to select this. And then you have for the joystick mode fixed, so it's locked into place, follows, so it's following, or to drag. And so I leave it on follow. This is a default. I did not change this, but this is what I've left it on. And then for double tap joystick to auto run, this can cause problems in some cases, but I always have mine enabled. And then I have auto run for everything else here. If you find that the auto face target is irritating, then you can disable that. But I mean, it doesn't cause a problem for me, so I leave those on. Allow spellcast without target. You can disable this if you want to do it without a target. You can enable this, but if you want a target there, then you would turn that off. Prioritize targeting players in PvP. That is on if you are a PvP player. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter. Auto sheath. If you are someone who loves to sheath your weapon, then you can enable that. Otherwise, you can just leave it off. But I prefer, honestly, not having it on for myself. But that, again, is preference of choice. And then you have your frame rates per second and your latency, and then your debug. If you're the type of person to lag, you want to know where you are in that, you can enable some of these options right here. Very rarely do you need to have this on, but it might help having your latency monitor to keep an eye on your latency, see if you're lagging or not. The PC version is quite different in the sense that you don't have the target option here. You do not have that option when you are, so you've got the auto run to target, but everything above auto run, the double tap joystick, and this is strictly mobile only, not PC. Everything else is the same. You also have a turn speed option as well, so you can turn at a quicker rate, which I have mine up fair. I actually have mine up a lot higher than this when I'm doing PvP, but not when I'm doing the standard stuff. In the graphics setting on the PC, of course, you have the options for resolution as well as the displayed mode, and you don't have these options on PC. On mobile, you don't have these options. It starts at the very top with the interface mode, and this is right here. And then everything else is there. So if you are the type of person to want to mess with your frames per second, which I have mine set to 60 FPS, but in order to do that, you need to turn off your vertical sync, and this you can also do on the mobile as well. Disable that, and then you're able to adjust it from 30 frames to 60 frames. But honestly, for mobile, you can certainly keep it on the 30 frames. But if you just disable this, then it's automatically on 30 frames per second. And usually, this is the default, is to have it on. And then of course you've got your graphics preferences, which is you can have it set to whatever you want. If you lag like a son of a gun, you might want to drop that to the very lowest, because that is going to be definitely affecting your performance of your thing. But you have basically all the same options here up to a certain point. Honestly, this annoys me, this whole thing right here. Now, I don't know how much this actually affects the mobile. I'm really not sure, but it definitely affects it on PC, and it annoys me, so I just turn that right off. Bloom is another thing. If you lag, you're going to want to turn that off, but if you have a great mobile device, you can definitely enable that. So on the PC side of things, of course, is basically the same. You have most of the same options as you do, except that you have a grass distance. This is another option that you have on PC that you don't have on the mobile. So then you've got the depth blur. This is another thing not available on mobile. You don't have the depth blur option, but on PC you do. And then of course on your, this is the exact same as it is for the mobile. I don't think there's any difference except for the mute audio on focus loss. And I don't use that, so it doesn't cause me a problem. I find it interesting that they have key bindings for the mobile version, but I'm assuming that's because you can use like an external keyboard. There's a little option right here. You have the account where you can delete your account, and this is the same on the PC, on mobile. You have the same option. So those are all the settings in the mobile version and in the PC version, the differences between them, and my recommendations on some of those. But someone had asked me why the game looked so different between mobile and PC, and you are right. I mean, if you're looking at just this alone, you can see that on PC this is cleaner and just more, graphically better. But then you've got this one, which is not. Now that's weird. Why is there a shadow underneath here, but there's no shadow on the PC version? Shouldn't there be a shadow there too? Yeah, there is definitely a visual difference between the two of them, largely because the mobile cannot handle what the PC can do. So that is largely the difference between them. That is it for this one. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.